Good afternoon from sunny UK. I have the great pleasure of chatting in Spain, not in Spanish, I'm pleased to say, with Tom Alan, who I have editing experience with. So that will be an interesting conversation when we get to it. But let's start at the beginning. Presumably it's nice and sunny in your village near Valencia.
Yes, it is. It's about 35 degrees. So
Nice,
yeah,
bearable.
we're doing the siesta bit at the moment. We're
Okay,
inside, the air
okay.
conditioning's on, and the sun is outside baking anybody who's out there.
Right. Nice. Nice. So we'll go back to the beginning and how did you get writing? When did you start writing? And can you remember the first thing you wrote? Perhaps as a
Um,
child or
well, I'm not one of these people who can say I always wanted to be a writer. I was always writing stories in school.
mm,
I didn't do that. In fact, I don't even think I was very good a reader in school. I didn't read very widely either.
mm,
I played football. Any
okay.
spare time, I was playing football. So I think the first thing I ever wrote was probably a letter to Shoot magazine, talking
Remember
about,
shoot?
yeah.
Yes. Shoot
And
exclamation mark, wasn't it?
yes, it was.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
The way I played football, it should have been called Shoot and Miss, but
Oh, bless.
letter to Shoot magazine was probably
Mm,
it.
right.
And then not much really until I became a primary school teacher
Mm,
and started reading to children
mm,
and thinking, these are great books. Could I write one?
mm.
And I tried writing 3 or 4 children's books, sent them off. In those days, the early
Good
80s, you
paper.
could send them to publishers
Mm.
and they sent them back and said, no, thank you very much. But
It
I
cost
always
cost a
dabbled.
fortune.
Hmm?
Cost a fortune in postage.
Yeah, paper,
Printing and postage.
yeah, paper in
Yeah,
envelopes, sending them off,
yeah,
stamped addressed envelope to bring it back. It did.
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
nothing came of that. And it was only when I started teaching here in Spain. I came here in 2006 to
Mm,
teach in what's called an immersion school,
okay.
where the Spanish children go to school, primary school children,
Mm.
and are taught by English teachers everything
Oh,
in English.
okay.
If
Wow.
you flip it the other way around and imagine a school in your town, the
Mm,
Spanish school, and you send your children there, nursery as well, they start at two
mm,
years old.
mm,
You send them there, the staff are all Spanish, some of them don't speak any English,
mm.
and they teach your children everything, PE, math, science, in Spanish.
Wow.
It's bonkers.
Yes.
And so when I arrived here, I thought, this is crazy. And so I thought I'd write a few articles and send them to the Times Educational Supplement.
Mm,
And they took them and published them.
mhm,
And when that finished, I thought, well, I've written 6 or 8 1,500-word pieces.
mm,
If I wrote a few more, I'd have a book.
mm.
And it came, Monday Books published it as an eBook in the end. And
Okay.
it turned into a sort of a memoir. But I invented a character who was the teacher. I wrote it first person, but
Mhm.
I was Jeremy Dean, which was
Right.
the name the Times Education Supplement gave me.
Mm,
So it came out as a memoir. I self-published a second volume, and
mm.
that was where my writing started. The next
Okay.
thing was in the back of my mind, could I write a real book? A novel,
Mm.
as we say to the kids, a story with
Yeah,
a beginning, a middle, and an end.
sure.
And that was really what it was like a puzzle for me, a challenge.
Mm,
Could I do it? And that ended up with jackpot, hitting the jackpot,
mm.
which you know well, of course, because you
I
edited.
do. I do know well. Yes, I had the
Yeah,
pleasure of being your editor. Yes, we'll come on to editing. We'll
sure.
save that
Yeah.
for a little while. Do you, now you're retired, do you have a set routine of when you write? You a morning?
I think while I was working, that I just didn't have time to
Mm,
do the writing I wanted to do.
mm,
You're busy in class, especially when we were in Spain. We wanted to go out, explore the
sure.
country,
Mm,
sit in a coffee shop. I play tennis, I play squash, And so the writing, I didn't do enough. Once I retired, I kind of dived into it, but still, I do a lot of other things, and I only really do the writing when I feel like it and when I feel I've got something to write.
Right.
But I'm not trying to earn a living from writing. It's a hobby. I play tennis. It's a hobby. Nobody pays me. Nobody buys tickets to watch me. And the writing is similar. It's a hobby. It's a puzzle. It's a challenge. And I just enjoy it.
Yeah.
But
That's the
I
thing,
don't,
isn't it?
yeah, I don't have a
Yeah.
routine. I don't write in the mornings or the afternoons.
Yeah.
I just come to it when I
Mm.
feel I've got something to write. I fancy it. I've got some time. And I couldn't tell you when I get up every morning, will I write anything today? I'm quite lucky really, because I'm not trying to earn a living. It I I don't give myself deadlines or timetables. When I feel like writing, I'll write.
Yeah. There's no pressure then, is there?
Yeah,
You don't feel I've got to write 1,000 words
no,
today.
no. And I'm
Yeah.
quite fearful of pressure. When I'm in the middle of writing a book, I don't contact the publishers and say, because I don't want them to come to me and say, oh, well, look, if you send it to us by this date, and I don't want that pressure. You know, my wife and I, we do a lot of other things together, and I don't want to be saying, well, I can't go out for a bicycle ride, I can't go down to the coffee shop, I can't play a game of tennis
Yeah.
because I have to fulfill this deadline. So
Yeah.
I shy away from that, really. I hide from it. I'm fearful of it.
Mm. You were obviously an avid reader as a teacher as well. You were obviously had to read. I mean, there's
Yeah.
big difference between reading in your teaching life and reading for pleasure. Do you
Yeah,
read?
I've always read quite a range of books. When I retired, I decided I'd never read John le Carre,
Okay.
so I'll read them all,
Hmm.
and I read them in order.
Right.
And I don't know, it was just something that came to me. He was such a famous writer. I thought
Yeah.
I'd read them all. As a
Yeah.
teacher, I read a lot of children's books. Obviously, you're looking for books to read to children.
Sure.
And now the reading has to fit in with everything else. And I tend to read at night, and I tend to be quite a slow reader. So if I'm reading a book, it'll possibly take me 3 or 4 weeks, maybe
Okay.
more, to finish it. But I read a lot of different types. I like comedy. I like speculative fiction. I love people like Dave Eggers, wrote The
Yes.
Circle. John
Okay.
Lanchester wrote The Wall. The Wall is probably my number one favorite book
Wow.
of all time at the moment. But in 6 months' time, I'll have a new one.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you find that because you don't see, I'm terrible. I should write every day because I want to write every day,
Yeah.
but like life, happens. Do you find that when you're reading sporadically and writing sporadically, that you have to go back to then remind yourself where you're at in both cases?
Yes, but I'm not sure that's the reason I go back. I think I go back anyway, even if I go to something I was writing yesterday, I tend to go back and read at least what I wrote yesterday, if not a bit more. And I'm a bit of a fiddler. I'll
Okay.
sort of start editing and deleting things and adding a sentence here, which I think probably slows down the writing process as well. So I guess I'm quite a slow writer. I'm quite a fiddly writer. I mess about with it and change things. I mean, I'm very new to it. I've written 2 novels. That's all.
Right.
Both in the last, writing them really since about 2018 was when I started
Okay.
writing the novels.
Yeah.
So I'm inexperienced at it. I'm learning as I go along. I learned an awful lot from the 2 editors, yourself, Abby Rutherford, for the second book. I learned an awful lot from that progress. And I feel almost as if I've now got a chance to be on the other side of the teacher's desk when I'm working with an editor.
Yeah.
It's like I'm the child now. and I can learn. And the
Mm.
pressure comes off, although the pressure's on because you want the book to work.
Yes.
I feel it's just quite a new experience. I've had 40 years of marking other people's work,
Mm.
and
Mm.
suddenly I've got people like you and Abby marking
Yeah.
my work.
Yeah.
And I quite like it.
Well, I
It's,
do.
it scares me when
Okay.
you first sent back Jackpot and there were
Mm.
2,000 corrections.
Right.
And I thought, what have I done here?
But
But
hopefully, a lot of them were smiley faces because I tend to edit
yes,
as a reader as well as a writer.
yeah, which I
So
really liked.
yeah.
Yeah. I like
Well,
to pretend that more than half of them were smiley
right,
face, but a
because
lot of
I don't count them, but
no.
yeah, I've never actually. I don't think because I tend not to alter the book unless it really needs it, and also coming through a publisher, it's pretty good before it comes to me anyway, because they've accepted it.
Yes.
Um, that I find that even working directly with authors, that I don't change the word count hugely. I'm not chopping out. It's a lot of it is fine tuning.
Yes,
So
very
your
nice.
dark,
I
yeah,
think 400, nearly 500 were, you discovered I had a linguistic tick, the word
okay.
just.
Oh, everybody does.
I
Just now,
know.
all very, yeah. Everybody
Yeah.
has too many of those. Well,
Yeah.
well, I don't
You know,
know. Well, maybe.
sorry, a
Right.
quarter of those problems were, I think, the word just,
Okay.
which I think I got rid of most of them, not all of them,
Right.
but most of
Right.
them.
Well, I don't suppose you were the biggest justs. I'm sure I've had others where they've had more justs than yours.
Well,
But that is one of the many things I look out for.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that now pings in my head. If I say it in conversation, I think,
Mm.
oh, I've said
All
just. If
right.
Morgan was here, she'd
Morgan
be,
said yes.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's changed the way I speak as well as the way I
Really.
write.
Yeah.
It's spooky, really.
Do you find, because as a reader I'm dreadful. I tend to just read short stories, and because the next part of this author spotlight series will be talking with authors about their specific books.
Yeah.
Um, that whether it's changed you being a writer and having been edited, has it changed you as a reader at all? Do you get to a
Yes, I
point in a
think
book and
so.
think,
Yeah,
right,
yeah. I'm more picky. I'm more think, oh, well, I wouldn't have written it like that. It's ridiculous, really, because everything I read is, edited and published and
mm,
proofread.
mm,
And I don't know, but I do feel I notice more. My wife is much more forensic. She's
right,
written to publishers to say that, I don't know, PG James has got a
mm,
date wrong
okay,
or this wrong, and
yeah, yeah.
she's very forensic at it.
Yeah, because I probably mentioned this to you, but I say that I edit for the 100th reader,
Yeah,
because either there's something grammatical that 99 readers won't notice, but one will, or
yeah,
there's a fact, because it's my job as an editor to check all the facts as well.
yes,
Even if I know something's right, I
yes,
go on Wikipedia first of all, and then another site to double check or triple check
yeah.
that something is correct.
I'm a little bit like that myself. I check
Mm,
things that I know,
mm,
but I check them anyway, just in case I've got it wrong.
yeah.
I check hyphens. Are these two words hyphenated? Are they not
Mm,
hyphenated?
mm,
Are they one word? So that's probably what slows me down. I do an awful
right.
lot of checking, but I
What about
tend
read?
to do that late on. Late
Right.
on. I don't know. I think
Get
I
it
read
out
Jackpot
first.
close to 40 times before I
Wow.
sent it to anybody.
Mm, mm. Are you a fan of research? Do you enjoy
Yes,
that part of it?
yes. If it's necessary, if it's necessary, I do the research. But I think I quite like using experience. I
Mm.
like using experience I've got. So, in Jackpot, main character, English teacher. And
Yes, of course. Yeah.
it makes it easier. I
Mm,
think am I a fan of research? I think I shy away. I'd shy away from writing detective because I know nothing about it.
mm,
And I'd have to start with a whole load of research to find out,
mm.
just the ranks in the police force and who would do
Mm,
what. And I
mm,
shy away from that. I think I like to write what I know, really.
mm. But it's
Uh,
experience as well. Having given him the job of as an English teacher, you've experienced it. It's a bit like some authors writing about a place they've never been to. You know, if you live in that place or you know it really well. So I've been to Valencia a couple of times, and I was there for a week almost on my own during the day because I was visiting a German friend, and so she was studying during the day, and she had an apartment in the new part of the city,
yeah,
and then there was the what was the river in between,
yeah.
that the gardens and I loved the big chess set. I don't know if it's still there, the big chess set and a Gulliver as well on
Gulliver's
yes,
fantastic.
it's
Yeah.
fabulous.
We
Um,
took groups of school children to Gulliver. We'd go to
okay.
either the Science Museum
Mm,
or the Oceanographique.
mm,
And then after lunch, they'd go to Gulliver, and it was
right.
chaos. They
I
loved it.
loved it. But
Yeah.
I found this is many years ago that I wouldn't say the Spanish don't like me because that's really unfair. But at the time, I didn't speak because my friend was normally in Germany, so I didn't speak any Spanish. And so I used to go and try to buy things with my limited knowledge. And this is pre-internet and pre-smartphones and so
Yes.
on. And I used to I'd say that the Spanish don't like me because I'm taller than them, and the Spanish women don't like me because I'm naturally blonde. And but it was lovely. There's such I mean, and now my Spanish is not too bad. It's rusty, but it's not too bad because I did actually teach it. Was paid to be taught it
Yes.
through a job. Um, but no, it's Valencia is just amazing. Really lovely, lovely city.
It's fantastic. It's my
Mm,
favorite Spanish city.
right.
We've been here since 2006, so
Mm,
we've done most of the big cities and a lot of the
mm,
smaller ones. And
mm,
Valencia for me stands out. The
mm,
river, the Turia Garden through the river, I just
mm,
think is when the river flooded. I think it was in the mid to late 50s. There was a
mm.
desperately bad flood in Valencia, and
Wow.
they dug a new river, diverted the river.
Mm.
And Franco's plan was to turn it into like a motorway.
Oh,
It was to
okay.
be, a, I think, a three-lane highway in both directions. And the
Oh,
people of Valencia
said
protested
no. Mm.
and said no, and they changed the plans.
Rightly
And for
so.
me, it's one of the most fantastic
It is.
pieces
It's fabulous.
of urban planning I've ever
Mm.
seen. It's
It
wonderful.
is. It
Reminds
is.
me
It's
of
fabulous.
there's an old railway line in New York. I think it's called the Sky Line.
Okay.
And that's now a garden along an old railway line up on
Wow.
stilts in New
Oh,
York
how
City. But
lovely.
I
Yeah.
think the Turia Garden in Valencia
Mm.
is better.
Mm.
It's fabulous.
Because you've lived in a few interesting places, Kuwait, Japan. Do you think, obviously, you've originated from the UK? Is there a next for you, travel wise? You
No,
seem very
I think
settled now.
we travel for holidays,
Mm,
and being retired, we can maybe travel for a little bit more time.
mm,
But no, our home is here in
mm,
Spain. We still have a home in the UK. So
mm,
we will end up, I think, in one of those two places.
mm.
We've no plans to go and live in another country.
No,
I don't think so. I don't.
no.
We're too happy here, really.
Yeah, it
We've
sounds like it, especially
yeah,
because you've been
we
there
came
since
for 2 years. We
2006.
came on a 2 year contract. The school had
Mm,
a very high turnover in staff,
mm,
and the head asked us to commit for 2 years. I
mm,
think because he was afraid we might clear out after one. So we
mm.
came for 2 years, and so far
You're
we've been
still
here for
there.
18.
Fabulous.
So no, I think
Mm,
we've put a few roots down.
yeah. Did you stay in the other places long enough to perhaps use them as a base for writing? So,
No, no, we were in
no.
Kuwait for one academic year. That was the plan. We went
Mm,
for a year, 1990, I think it was, just
okay.
before the invasion by
Mm,
Iraq. We
mm,
went in 89, 90, and we planned to work for a year, save a salary, and then travel for a year. So at the
mm.
end of our year, we left, and 6 weeks later, the Iraqi army invaded.
Wow.
So we missed that by a whisker, really.
Yes.
I'll have to confess, I wanted to stay for another year.
Mm.
And my wife said, no, no, we've got this plan. I'm
Mm.
geared up to travel. Let's
Yeah.
go.
It's supposed to be a beautiful place.
It
Mm.
was. We haven't been
Mm.
back since
Yeah.
1990.
Mm.
It was very interesting, fascinating place.
Mm.
Difficult though, because obviously we didn't speak much, hardly any Arabic.
Mm.
But the contact really with the place was with the children. But there were
Yeah.
60 nationalities in the school. It was
Yeah.
an international school.
Mm.
So we met as many Palestinians, Egyptians,
Mm.
Romanians,
Mm.
Germans in the school as we
Yeah.
did Kuwaitis.
And
It
of
was
course, you're there as an English teacher. So
exactly, well,
yeah.
no, a primary teacher again,
Right.
primary
Yeah.
teaching. So the whole
Yeah.
a class of
So
children,
yeah. And
35 there, big classes,
wow.
but
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. Everything was took place in English, presumably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole school was set up for English. There was a secondary department there.
Right.
Think they did A levels at the end of it.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
similar to the school here in Spain. We had a secondary department. They did A levels at the end. And
Mm.
lots of the children who we taught as 7 or 8 year olds in 2006
Mm.
are now either in university in the UK, in the
Mm.
States, throughout Europe, or
Yeah.
they're training. A girl my wife taught is a trainee doctor.
Okay.
And you see these kids that
Oh,
you taught at 7
it's so rewarding.
taking over the world, and you think,
Yeah.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
I trust
Good
them
on them.
to get on with it.
Yeah.
It is very rewarding to see them.
Yeah. Wonderful. Did your wife ever get a reply about the PD James date wrong? Do you know?
I don't think she did.
Right.
I don't think so. I'll
Okay.
check with her, but I don't
Yeah.
think she did.
Yeah.
But
Did you your the it just reminded me about the I was going to ask you back earlier anyway, what your letter to the Shoot magazine was about. Can you remember?
oh, it was probably something that's still exercising me to this day, a referee's decision.
Ah, okay.
That would almost
Well,
certainly have been
yeah,
it.
I'm a Tim husband isn't particularly a football fan, but he's semi supports Arsenal.
Right.
And so I'm half expecting that we'll end up at a match somewhere. But he is. I am a cricket widow,
Oh, right.
and so we normally watch Richard Osman House of Games, and a couple of people have mentioned his books actually, and
Yes.
it's a refreshing change that somebody who was famous before they became a writer has actually written the books themselves. But that's another
Yes.
story. And so we normally watch the House of Games at 6 o'clock, but we haven't. They're all backing up on catch up now because
Because
we've
you're
been watching
busy.
the cricket. Well, he's yes, I'm either here or he's watching or downstairs on my laptop and he's watching the cricket.
All right.
But yes, the amount of times they because I think they have one review per team, and he's actually in London now with the Oval Invincible at the Oval,
Oh, right.
watching. We'll be watching when it starts the women's game and the
Yes.
hundreds. And so yes, he's. I can hear him from the other end of the house, shouting about some decision or
Oh, my
other.
wife's the
So I
shouter.
totally get it. Is she
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We
right?
watch football. We watch
Yeah.
tennis,
Right.
and my wife's the shouter.
Yeah.
I tend not to
Okay.
shout because I'm
Yeah.
used to shouting at. Well, didn't shout a lot, but I'm used to
Right.
shouting at children, and they
Children.
take notice. You shout at the telly,
Okay.
and they
Yeah.
ignore you. So
Yeah.
I don't bother.
No, that's true. Yes. So speaking of football, you go to local matches where
Yeah,
you are.
we're members at Vila-real,
Okay.
the yellow submarine team, who have
Right.
been relatively successful for the
Mm.
size of town. The town is
Mm.
only, I think, 50,000. I think you could fit half the town into
In
the
the
stadium,
stadium.
which is quite unusual.
Yeah.
But one of their financial backers owns the big supermarkets out here,
Ah.
and they do reasonably well. But whenever they have a good player, the bigger teams come and buy them. So
Ah.
they're forever building their team and attempting to
Mm.
do well, and
Mm.
then they lose the players who get them wherever they get to. So,
Yeah.
but it's fun.
Yes.
It's a very family type of club, and
Mm.
it's actually I think, quite an older person's type of club. You walk to the ground, and there's lots of old men and old women. I mean, you know, retired, going to the ground. It's a very. I'm used to being a Londoner. I'm used to going to West Ham and Arsenal, Tottenham, Queens Park
Right.
Rangers, and the atmosphere outside those grounds is completely different to Vila-real.
Mm.
Vila-real, it's almost like you're going to a concert to see music. There's no hot
Oh,
dog stands, there's no
no.
noise, there's no crowds
Wow.
chanting, there's
That must be
pensioners.
quite surreal, really.
It's
Yeah.
strange, it's odd. I
Yeah.
quite like it. It's a
Mm.
very it's a nice atmosphere.
Mm.
When the local teams, Valencia, come to visit, there's a
Mm.
section for the away fans, and they'll make quite a racket.
Right.
And
They make
Atletico
up for it.
Madrid and Real Madrid and Barcelona will
Mm.
come.
All the
But
ones
when
I've
it's
heard of.
another
Yeah.
small club, it's almost like going to a concert. It's quite a
Wow.
sedate atmosphere.
Wow. So you're working on book 3 at
I
the
am
moment?
book 3, but don't tell my publisher because I don't want them
Okay.
coming and giving me a
Giving you a
deadline.
deadline. No, exactly.
No,
And
no.
they're all standalones.
No, book 3 is a follow-up, not a sequel, a
Mm.
follow-up to Jackpot.
Okay. Oh, great.
It's another lottery win,
Mm.
not fulfilling the dreams of the winner, which
Right.
was Jackpot's story.
Mm. Mm.
So it's a variation on that. There's a little link to the Jackpot story, which I can't say because
Okay.
it'll spoil the plot of
Sure.
Jackpot for anybody who hasn't
Sure.
read it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the next one, I'm about halfway through it, so give me another 6 years and I might finish it.
Okay.
Um, it's a follow-up, yeah, which
Mm.
I'm enjoying. It's not
Yeah.
a rom-com. It's what I'm terming a sort of bittersweet comedy.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
we'll
because there
see.
is humor. I really enjoy the humor. But do you find, I don't know how the English humor varies to the Spanish humor. Do you find, because obviously English and American humor is very different.
Yes.
So it must be difficult to sort of pitch it.
No, it's funny. I hadn't really thought about it too much, but I've always used humor in the classroom
Mm.
with primary children in England. And
Mm.
when I came to Spain, I thought, will this work? And I carried on, and it did. I mean, Spanish
Okay.
kids are very, very up for anything. They'll
Mm.
run with anything you suggest.
Mm.
Um, and so the humor worked in the classroom, and I find humor quite natural to write. I found writing Jackpot, the humor part of it, I found fairly easy. And so there's humor again in the follow-up to it. And I
Mm.
think probably I'm discovering after 2 books that that's probably my niche, the kind
Mm.
of family, maybe lottery linked, but family issues, problems, and
Mm.
some kind of humorous slant on it.
Mm.
I feel it's the way I think.
Mm.
I find humor in certain
Mm.
situations and things, and for me it flows relatively easy
Mm.
when I manage to sit down and start writing.
Well, I was going to say that because you're writing something that either you clearly enjoy, and writing humor. I love writing humor, or
Yeah.
humorous scenes anyway, in darker things. Um, it's almost, then it can tempt you back to writing, because you know you're
Yes.
going to enjoy, once you get to it, bum in seat, that you will enjoy the process
Yeah.
when you get back to it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do, and I think that's why, because I don't say I'm going to write 1,000 words a day and
Mm.
end up sitting in front of a blank sheet and
Mm.
not enjoying
No.
it because I'm
Mm.
not able to do it. I think
Yeah.
having the luxury of being able to walk away, do something else, and come back when I've got an idea,
Mm.
that helps.
Yeah.
I do admire people who write for a living and
Mm.
write 1,000 words a day because I
Mm.
think that's work.
Mm.
That's work. And I
And
think
that's the
that,
thing. You have to kind of see it. If you want to write as for a living, you do have to see it as a job.
Yes.
You know, you have to set certain hours, and which is fine if you're able to do that.
Yeah.
But when life takes over,
Yeah. I
it's
think I'm
that
happy
much more
to accept
difficult.
that. I'm not. I'd never call myself a writer,
Mm,
like I'd never call myself a tennis player.
mm.
You know, they're hobbies.
Yeah, yeah,
I write when I fancy writing. I play tennis
yeah,
when I fancy playing tennis.
yeah.
And so I'm a
Yes.
retired teacher who writes a little bit. That's
Right.
how I describe myself.
Okay.
It's
Yeah. Well, the pressure then will be once we've done a video for your first for hitting the jackpot, and then we return and do a video for your second book, and
no,
then
there's
I'll
one in the middle.
invite you. Ah, okay.
There's one in the middle.
Okay.
Bloodhound published a second book about 5 months ago, I think it came out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the next one will be the third.
Yes. Yes. So
Yeah,
we can do two more chats for those two
yeah,
books.
yeah.
And then I'll be
And
inviting you for the third one, which will be your second
yeah, don't give
jackpot.
me a
Okay.
deadline, whatever you're
Okay.
doing.
Okay. Well,
I'll,
Christmas is always a nice
no,
time.
no, 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 no. I'm
Yeah.
busy at Christmas. I'm busy at New Year. I'm busy at
Yeah.
Easter. We go on
Yeah.
holiday in the summer.
Okay.
I've got a
Right.
tennis match. No, no,
Okay.
no deadlines.
All right. Well, hopefully a third by the time I wind these up in X decades time. Anyway.
Hopefully, fingers
Yes.
crossed. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely. Oh, well, it's been a real pleasure to actually get to chat to you
You too,
rather
as well.
than via email
Yes.
with various drafts. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll look forward to next time when we talk
Yeah.
about
Okay. Thanks,
hitting the
Morgan.
jackpot.
Great
You're
to
very
talk to you.
welcome, and you take care. Bye bye.
Cheers. You too. Bye bye.